Before the war began in February, roughly 130 large vessels crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Every single day. Oil tankers, LNG carriers, cargo ships, moving 25% of the world's seaborne oil and 20% of its liquefied natural gas through a waterway barely 33 kilometers wide, at its narrowest point since July 7, 6 days ago. Lloyd's List. Intelligence reports that not one large vessel above 10,000 tons has crossed the strait with its tracking system switched on. The ships that did cross went dark, deliberately disabling their transponders to hide their location from everyone, including the people trying to protect them. When ships start going dark in a major waterway, it is not a technical problem. It is a signal about how the people with the most at stake are actually assessing the risk, regardless of what the headlines say about ceasefires and negotiations. Welcome to Financial News Daily. Monday, July 13, 2026. Today we look at what is actually happening in the Strait of Hormuz beneath the daily cycle of strikes, statements, and ceasefire claims, and what the silence of those empty shipping lanes means for oil, for inflation, and for the cost of everything connected to them. Part 1. What is actually happening? Here is the sequence of events from the past 10 days. Stripped of the diplomatic framing. On July 7, Iran attacked the Qatari LNG tanker Al-Rikayat and the Saudi supertanker Wedyan while they were transiting the strait. Al-Rikayat caught fire and was evacuated. A third vessel was hit within 24 hours. The U.S. responded by launching what CENTCOM described as a series of powerful strikes targeting over 80 Iranian military sites, air defenses, radar installations, anti-ship missile systems, and dozens of small IRGC boats. The Treasury simultaneously revoked the 60-day sanctions waiver that had been part of the June peace deal. Iran responded by launching missiles and drones at U.S. military facilities in Bahrain and Kuwait. Kuwait confirmed 1 fatality and more than 60 injured. The Persian Gulf Strait Authority then declared the strait closed until further notice. The Memorandum of Understanding signed in June, the same agreement that sent the Nasdaq up 3% and oil crashing to pre-war levels, is now, for all practical purposes, suspended. Not officially cancelled. Not formally torn up. Suspended in a state where neither side is fully honoring it, and neither side is ready to declare it dead. Part 1. What is actually happening? Here is the sequence of events from the past 10 days. Stripped of the diplomatic framing. On July 7, Iran attacked the Qatari LNG tanker Al-Rikayat and the Saudi supertanker Wedyan while they were transiting the strait. Al-Rikayat caught fire and was evacuated. A third vessel was hit within 24 hours. The U.S. responded by launching what CENTCOM described as a series of powerful strikes targeting over 80 Iranian military sites, air defenses, radar installations, anti-ship missile systems, and dozens of small IRGC boats. The Treasury simultaneously revoked the 60-day sanctions waiver that had been part of the June peace deal. Iran responded by launching missiles and drones at U.S. military facilities in Bahrain and Kuwait. Kuwait confirmed 1 fatality and more than 60 injured. The Persian Gulf Strait Authority then declared the strait closed until further notice. The Memorandum of Understanding signed in June, the same agreement that sent the Nasdaq up 3% and oil crashing to pre-war levels, is now, for all practical purposes, suspended. Not officially cancelled. Not formally torn up. Suspended in a state where neither side is fully honoring it, and neither side is ready to declare it dead. Part 2 of the problem the deal never solved. There is a detail at the center of this dispute that the original headlines about the memorandum largely glossed over, and that now explains why the situation keeps returning to the same breaking point. The June agreement was deliberately vague about one fundamental question. Who controls the Strait of Hormuz? Iran regards significant portions of the strait as its territorial waters. The United States regards it as an international waterway open to all vessels by right. These two positions are not reconcilable without one side explicitly conceding something it is not prepared to concede. Amos Hochstein, who served as senior energy advisor to President Biden, was direct about this on CNBC last week. No matter what any agreement says, he argued, the practical reality is that Iran now controls the strait in a way it did not before February. Every country in the region, he said, already believes this. Nikos Petrakakos of Tufton Investment Management put it plainly. Before this war, Iran had no formal power over what passed through the strait. That is a status quo that has now changed, and he does not see it returning to where it was before. Part 3: What oil is telling you. Oil's behavior over the past 3 weeks is worth reading carefully, because it contains information that the political coverage does not always make explicit. When the June peace deal was signed, Brent crude fell from above $90 back toward pre-war levels, near $71 to $73 per barrel. The market priced in a return to normal shipping, fast. Perhaps too fast. As one analyst noted, oil had nearly unwound its entire war premium, despite a memorandum with no enforcement details and ongoing strikes still occurring. Now Brent is back above $76 per barrel, up more than $4 from last week. TD Securities, head of commodity strategy, is projecting Brent moving $10 to $15 higher into the summer, as inventories dwindle and supply chains tighten. Diesel, in particular, is facing pressure from two directions simultaneously: the loss of Middle Eastern refinery supply and Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian refineries, creating what analysts describe as skyrocketing prices beyond seasonal norms. The inventory picture is what matters most here. The world has been drawing down strategic petroleum reserves for months to offset the disruption. Those reserves do not refill automatically when a ceasefire is announced. They refill when oil actually flows. BNP Paribas has a year-end oil target of $80, arguing that any additional supply will be absorbed by buyers rushing to rebuild what they depleted. Part 4: What this means beyond oil. It is easy to think of the Strait of Hormuz as an oil story. It is not only an oil story. 25% of the world's seaborne oil and 20% of its liquefied natural gas pass through that waterway. But so does a significant portion of the global aluminum supply, helium, fertilizers, and petrochemicals, all moving in quantities that matter to industries far removed from energy. When a waterway that handles this volume of global trade operates at below 50% of pre-war capacity, as the MST Financial Analyst projects for the coming months, the effect is not just on oil prices. It is on the cost of manufacturing products that use petrochemicals, on the cost of food that uses fertilizer, on the cost of construction that uses aluminum. In other words, the Strait of Hormuz is not a shipping story, or even an oil story. It is an inflation story. And as long as ships are going dark rather than transiting openly, the inflation pressure that has defined 2026 is not going anywhere. Part 5: What to do with this information. The picture that emerges from looking at all of this together does not resolve cleanly into a simple recommendation. But it does suggest a few things worth thinking about carefully. The first is that the ceasefire announced in June did not end the underlying dispute, it paused it. Markets that priced in a full resolution moved faster than the facts warranted. That gap between optimism and reality is now closing in a direction that favors assets benefiting from sustained energy price pressure and continued uncertainty. The second is that the diesel price story deserves more attention than it is getting. When diesel prices rise sharply, the effect moves through the economy faster than crude oil alone, because diesel powers the trucks that move goods, the machines that build things, and the generators that keep the lights on. When the grid is stressed, a sustained diesel shock is a producer price shock before it becomes a consumer price shock, and producer prices tend to lead consumer prices by several months. The third is that gold's current position, around $4,000 to $4,100, is sitting in a zone where the war premium has been substantially removed, but the structural argument, central bank buying, dollar erosion, and debt levels, remains fully intact. If shipping data from the Strait continues to show no large vessel transits in the coming week, the war premium begins to rebuild before most people have positioned for it. 6 days without a large vessel crossing the Strait of Hormuz openly. A memorandum suspended but not cancelled. Oil back above $76 and projected to go higher as inventories continue to deplete. Diesel facing pressure from two directions, and a fundamental disagreement about who controls the most important waterway in global energy trade that no ceasefire document has actually resolved. The week ahead will tell us whether the latest round of U.S. strikes produces a genuine de-escalation, or simply resets the cycle that has now played out 4 times since February. Either outcome is worth watching closely, not because of what it means for this week's price, but because of what it means for where oil, inflation, and interest rates sit 3 months from now. Everything here is for informational purposes only. This is not financial advice. All data is based on publicly available information as of July 13, 2026. Please consult a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If today's analysis gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening beneath the headlines, give us a like and follow. We do this every day. Stay informed. Stay ahead. Financial News Daily.